Bloody hell, the cameras came out of nowhere.
Welcome to Speaker's Corner.
Well, I'm going to go in a minute, but anyway.
He's famous now.
We'll have a debate on this another time, but...
Why? Why debate another time? You wanted to discuss before the cameras came, yeah?
No, I'm going to go in a minute, but I mean, I'll be here next week. Yeah. We can continue this next week.
But anyway, you know, you mentioned the first law of thermodynamics, and you said in a closed system, energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, why are you assuming the universe always existed? Because that doesn't prove the universe always existed.
No.
That only proves in a closed system, a certain principle is always the case. But if you're going to assume that the universe always existed, or matter always existed, or energy always existed, these are just assumptions. These are unscientific assumptions.
No, it's not unscientific. In quantum mechanics, there is always something there.
Yeah, but quantum mechanics is at a macro level. Macro level.
Well, it's at a micro level.
Yes.
At a micro level, there is always something there.
But we are not doing micro level. I'm talking about the existence of the universe.
And even the macro level, on the micro and macro level, there has to be something. There has to be something in existence. There's no such thing as empty space. So there is always something. That something.
No, wait. That is not scientific. That
has to be energy.
No, you cannot say that matter always existed just by your claim. A claim has to be backed up. Show me any scientist who says that matter always existed. Go on.
No, energy and matter is the same thing. E equals mc squared.
Yeah, even energy always exists. Show me anyone who says that.
No, everything is some form of energy. Energy and it has to be energy. If energy and matter are the same thing in different forms, everything has to be.
I think you're just repeating the same thing, even though I've corrected. Wait a minute. You're instead of saying that in a closed system, energy can neither be destroyed or created, you are assuming that energy is eternal, which is not something which we learned from the first law of thermodynamics.
Will you tell me what you believe the first law of thermodynamics is?
I've just repeated this several times now.
Okay, you believe that? Yeah,
yes, in a closed system I agree. Matter can neither be created or energy can neither be created nor destroyed. But you, just based on that, you cannot assume it is eternal.
No, but what would be the alternative to energy?
What is the alternative to energy? In what case?
Whatever exists has to be in some form of energy.
Okay, let me ask you something. Do you believe that you have a soul?
Do I believe I have a soul?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with anything?
I'll tell you what is going on. First tell me if you believe or not.
I probably do have a
No, don't tell me probably. Tell me something that you're certain about.
Consciousness.
Okay, consciousness, very good. Is consciousness energy?
Is consciousness energy?
Yes.
Consciousness is formed from the brain.
Is it energy?
Consciousness
because you said everything is energy. And I'm asking you, is consciousness energy?
Consciousness must be
it's not energy.
It must be a form of energy. Everything.
If you don't know, just say I don't know.
Because it comes from the mind.
No. And look, you need to understand consciousness. Define consciousness.
You define it for me.
I will, but let me know it because you said it can be a form of energy. I want to know if you understand what consciousness is.
It can be correctly understood as a form of awareness.
Exactly. So it's your understanding of your environment, that you're aware of your environment, of your existence. This has got nothing to do with energy. Consciousness itself is a different entity to energy. However, you and I think every scientist out there will believe that yes, we all have consciousness. Yes? But no one will ever say, no scientist, no philosopher will say that consciousness is energy.
So what is it then?
It is like yourself. It's something, it's for you as, it's subjective of your understanding of your environment, of your existence. So I exist, hence I am conscious. So if you look at certain philosophers like Descartes, they have actually said this, and this is what they define as consciousness. But anyone who says this is energy, they don't know what consciousness is. So that's the reason I'm asking you that there are many people who would actually believe in consciousness, but they don't have any evidence from a lab or from any, from any instrument or tool to detect this consciousness. Yet they firmly believe in it. Like the way you do, like the way the scientists do, like the way the philosophers do. So we have to understand that we don't just live in a naturalistic world, we live in a world which has got both matter and something which is called, which is metaphysical. Okay, so we got matter which can be seen, detected. We can know through empirical evidence that they exist. However, when it comes to asking about things which are metaphysical, this is outside the scope of science. So you cannot go to some scientists and say, okay, detect how much love I have for my pet in comparison to how much love I have for my parents. They will never be able to tell you, because this comes as a form from your consciousness. It is something which you can only know. Only you will know subjectively how much, whom you love more, your pets or your parents. Do you see what I mean? So there are things other than just matter. There are things other than just energy, which we call the metaphysical. The metaphysical world is pretty real, and you believe it and I believe it. Something like an example I gave you is consciousness.
It depends what you understand of energy is. I mean, energy doesn't have to be something that you can actually detect or define.
You can detect energy.
No, but
I don't think there's any energy.
I said it can be something that you cannot necessarily detect or define.
Then you don't know if it exists then.
But
If you cannot define it, if you cannot measure it, if you cannot detect it, then how will you know it exists?
No, but
If you don't have empirical evidence for it, you can't know it exists.
We know it exists from looking around. We know this is made of energy. We know this is made of energy. We know this is
We
made
can
of
see
energy.
all that.
But at the same time,
Give me an example of something which you cannot detect or observe through empirical evidence. Go on. Give an example.
Your consciousness.
That's the one I gave you.
Your consciousness.
And I believe that's metaphysical, not physical.
But everything stems from some form of.
Sorry, everything stems from?
Everything would stem from everything would stem from some form of energy which you cannot necessarily detect.
And who made that principle? Because I've never heard of that principle. Everything stems from energy. Where did you get that from?
No, I'm saying everything could be a form of energy even if you can't detect it.
Yeah, I'm asking you, where did you get that principle from?
Because
what?
everything came from an original energy source.
And what is that?
So that it depends on whether you believe in science or religion.
No, what do you believe in? Because you mentioned this, I want to know what do you believe in?
We'll continue this. We'll continue this next week. Okay.
No problem. Thanks a lot, mate.
Seek me out next week because I'll seek you.
Well, I'm not going to seek you out if you want to continue this.
Yeah,
please do. Inshallah.
All right.
So, what's your name, by the way?
Huh? Superman.
Superman? Oh, well.
We'll continue this next week.
Can you show me how you fly?
Yeah, I want to know how we fly.
Maybe next week.
Okay.
We'll continue this.
That's fine, inshallah. Okay. So yeah, just to give a quick summary. So the gentleman here, he wanted to discuss about certain things in religion. I asked him, do you believe in God? And he says, maybe, maybe not. He wasn't sure whether he even exists. And then I think from there it progressed into matter and energy and about the existence of the universe. So alhamdulillah, this is something that we have to understand, that not everyone is going to believe what you just claim. You need to substantiate what you claim. So you cannot just say energy always existed and then assume that we will all believe it. Even the scientists don't work like that. They need to substantiate. They need to go through certain peer groups to find out whether this theory that you believe in can be falsified or is it true. Yes, it's a scientific approach as well to look at things objectively and to look at it. But if you are going to then depend on a tool like science to understand things of the metaphysical world, then it is something which is beyond the scope of science. It is like the example of someone using a metal detector to find plastic. So it's a wrong tool for finding something which is metaphysical, and that is science. And this is where I think we have to understand from both perspectives that we have to understand the limitations of science, and we also have to understand the strength of science. Because science does tell us how things work. It does tell. It will never be able to tell you things like the origin of the universe. Won't be able to tell you origin of many things like the first cell and so on. Yes, they can speculate and assume things, but cannot tell you for certain how things originate. Jazak Allah Khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.